Okay, can you hear me? Okay, awesome. All right, so when we last left off a couple of weeks ago, we were going to interview a parent, older sibling, or friend's parent to determine the best alternative for software they use. Oh, okay. Hold on. What they use at work. I am... Okay. 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 300-word report on the interview. Okay, awesome. Okay, so for the last 3 sessions, we looked at Linux and how we can make it comfortable so that we're happy using it. And we looked at the fact that many of the tools that we use are either available outright with Linux or open source alternatives, and programs that people use and are familiar with in Windows or Macs have free open source alternatives for virtually any job that needs to be done. Okay. I look forward to reading your reports. I'll get back to you. Okay. Now we come to, for the next few weeks actually, we're going to come to what is arguably the most powerful option in Linux. And actually, since you're using Macs, you have a lot of these options available to you as well. Some of the options available to you as well, that we will be working using the command line interface. Is anybody already familiar with this? I have a feeling the answer is yes. Okay. So then I apologize in advance. I do not mean to talk down to you. I will quickly adapt to your level of to your individual levels of ability, but I need to start somewhere. Okay, we're going to take it step by step, and each command that we use on the command line builds to have a fuller and more complete understanding of Linux and how to work with it. Okay, alrighty. Okay, so first question is, what is a console? I'll refer to a console, or I'll refer to the terminal. It's a program, just like every other program, and what you can do with a console is you can issue commands directly to the operating system without having to open a program window and find the command or open the file, things like that. Command line allows you to abbreviate it. For instance, if you wanted to watch a movie, I don't know, have you seen the new Avengers movie yet? Okay, me either. Good. So we'll play. Okay, so if we had a, okay, no, that would make it sound like it was not legal. Okay, if we had an old version of an old movie that we had legally, what we would do is you would open up a program, Windows Media Player, VLC, and whatever you're comfortable with, whatever you're familiar with using, and you would open it, and then you go to File, and then Open, and then you'd have to search through the file, and you search through the file system for the file, and then double click on it, or click on it, click Open, and then it would open, and then either it would start playing automatically, or you click on the play button, hit the space bar, and it'll start playing. You watch the movie. Okay, this is normal behavior. I'm assuming you've done this before. Sounds pretty straightforward. So with Linux at the command line, all you need to do in the case of the movie player that we spoke about in a few slides ago, I prefer the one called MPV. There's MPV, there's Dragon Player, there's VLC, which we're familiar with from Windows and Macs. So I issue the simple command MPV, and then the name of the, not even the file that I want to play, but the directory that it's in, and it instantiates it. It starts running the program, and uses the parameter or the argument to and it goes, the argument is a directory, it goes into the directory, finds a playable file. If it doesn't find a playable file, it'll throw out an error, and then go to the next file until it finds a playable file, and then it opens up and I'm watching the movie. It takes a lot less time because all I do is I pop down. I have the second one on the list the fourth one on the list. Quake is yet another KDE Quake-like drop-down. Quake, I don't know okay. Quake is a game where when I was a kid, it was a first-person shooter. I'm sure you've heard of it. But in order to be able to communicate in game before Discord, before that, you would chat. What you would do is you would hit a button, and it would drop down a communications terminal, and you type in your message, and you hit enter, hit the button, and it would go back up into the top of the screen. You wouldn't be able to see it anymore. So it's a drop down. It's a drop down terminal. I happen to like it. I find it very easy to use. The one that's actually pictured is one that's called Console. We looked at it a little bit when we were trying to figure out what was going wrong. Okay, Minecraft has it also. Okay. I don't even know. I don't know if Fortnite has it. I know my nephew plays Fortnite, and I don't know. I don't have the patience for it. I think. Okay. Anyway. Okay. So Console is the one that's popular with KDE. Xterm is available generally on any system, and Quake and Yaquake. I'm not even sure how I've heard it both ways. Has this drop down, this drop up, drop down. Okay, and what we see in any of these terminals, any of these consoles, is like what you're seeing now. You're seeing in green. That's the username. Okay, and this is in more advanced Linux tutorials. You can set the prompt to be really whatever it is that you want. So it says it's the username. The username's Marc and then Yanshuf is a Hebrew word for owl. I happen to like owls, so the name of my laptop that I took the picture on is called Yanshuf, and so it's Marc on, and I'm on this machine. When I connect to another machine in my network, it will display a different name. And then there's a colon, and then the tilde mark, which means you're in your home directory, and then the $, which tells you that this is a bash prompt. And we will discuss what bash is. So when you go into your terminal, you will see some sort of prompt as such, and you'll know that it is ready to accept a command or a command and arguments, and be able to, and then execute it to the best of its ability, or it'll spit out an error saying, I don't know what you want me to do, sorry. Okay? Okay. Bash is a shell. It stands for Bourne, like Jason Bourne, B-O-U-R-N-E, again, meaning that there was a Bourne shell, but now there is a redone version of it called, so it's Born Again, it's a play on words, and SH for shell, B-A-S-H, bash shell. Okay, so a shell is a program that takes the commands and then executes them to the operating system. It sends the command to the operating system, says, find this program on the disk, load it up into memory, and start doing all the programming things that it does. Open Windows, display graphics, and all sorts of stuff. Okay, so there are different types of shells. There are different language methods. Not exactly, but there are different there are different shells that that behave in different ways and have different structures for creating. You can actually create programs in these shell languages. We'll look at that more towards the end. In about 3 or 4 weeks, we'll be looking at that. So you can and how you write the program. Ellis, you're the Python guy, or no, it was Cyrus. Okay, now it just has my best. Okay, good. It was Ellis. I was right all along. So you're familiar with programming syntax, and writing a program in Python has a different language structure than writing it in Bash, or writing it in C or Java or whatever other languages you may not be familiar with. Okay, so different shells have different styles for writings, and they're called syntax, or syntheses, but they're called, each shell has a different syntax. So if I want to, in Bash, if I want to write a conditional statement, an if-then statement, so writing it in Bash is much different, and I will say archaic, although that's not an official word. It's a much older programming structure. More modern languages are a little bit more natural language friendly. Both of you. Okay, so I was right again. So when we start to work in the command line and interacting using the shell, we'll see it, and you'll start to get the rhythm of it. I guess that's probably the best word for it, is the rhythm of the syntax of the language. So Bash is interesting in that each of these shells is the Bash shell, and there's a C shell and TCSH shell. There's actually a shell called Fish. I wonder if it's installed on. I'm checking on my my virtual machine. No. Okay. So there is a shell called Fish, which is meant for people who are self-learners. It's interactive. I think it stands for Fun Interactive Shell. So if you start typing command, it'll auto-complete it, and it has a very extensive help system. I find it, if you're just getting started with it, it might be interesting to look at, but I'm kind of going under the assumption that you're going to be able to handle Bash, but there are these different types of shells. Anyway, what you can do with shell commands is you can group them together, apply conditional logic to them, and you can create a shell script. A script, basically a series of commands that you get the computer to do exactly what it is that you want it to do. So I actually have I've written a number of shell scripts that help me do automatically certain things. It helps me do backups, and again, we'll learn about that later on. Okay, so Linux ships with the Bash shell, and you're not beholden to use it, but it's the easiest one to get started with, so we're not going to fix what ain't broke. Which part's weird? Okay. So a shell is the interface, is the language/interface between the human sitting in the chair and the operating system, i.e. Linux. Okay. So this is, you can't read that. All right. This is the first command that we're going to learn, and it's kind of a boring one. Now, when you're working in, but important nevertheless. When you are in the Linux operating system in the command at the command line in a terminal at a console, I will start saying fewer and fewer variations. So when you're when you're in the command line, you don't always, if you're looking for a file, if you're hunting through for a file or looking at different files or trying to find different files, it's easy for you to get lost. So the command that you want to, also if you're going to do something to files in the directory that you're in, like delete them, you don't want to do that in the wrong directory, otherwise you will have a nightmare on your hands. So we want to avoid that. Okay, so now let me see if I can switch to screen sharing. Start screen sharing, and we're going to go here and okay. So now you should be, oh wait, let me see if it flipped back. That's weird. Okay. You can see my screen? That's the wrong one. Okay, you can see, yes, okay, awesome. Okay, so let me go back into my, that's not it. Okay, into my screen sharing. Okay, so the first command, is pwd. Pwd stands for print working directory. Okay, I issue the command, I give it no flags or parameters, and it responds with where I am in the file system. We will discuss the Linux file system in depth, I think next class or two classes, whatever. Okay. And then it gives me a prompt again saying, I did what you wanted me to do, no errors were found, I executed everything cleanly and gave you a response, and I'm awaiting the next command. It is very laconic in that way, that Linux does not, you don't need to, that's it, it's done. Okay, move on. So I want you to, in your own, if you're boot up your virtual machines, open up your virtual machines, and just issue your issue the command pwd's print working directory, and all it will do is show you the name of the directory that you're in, which, since you just opened up your system, the assumption is that you want to start in your home directory. And for this version of for my version of it, I think you guys might have installed it on your virtual drive, on the virtual hard drives. So it might give you home / and then the name of the user. So in this live version that I'm using, the user is Neon. I haven't gone through all the steps to install it. Also realize I cannot see if you are talking to me, so one second. Okay, no, you are not. Okay, so pretty basic command. Doesn't have doesn't do a whole lot of interesting stuff, but it certainly is useful, especially if you feel like you're getting a little lost. Okay, pwd. All right. Now, in the, let me go back to my presentations. Okay, in presentations, we're going to look at all these commands, and they're going to all look like this. Unfortunately, the text is going to be really small in the corner. I apologize for that. You know what? I could do this also. Okay. So, pwd, print the name of the current or working directory, and then you issue the command. The synopsis of the command is the pwd is the command, and then whichever option you want, and it's print the full file name of the current working directory, just like I said. So that is directly out of the CLI manual, and we will look at that also. Okay, so there are two options of print working directory. Now, our case, they should give us all the same response. So this is a dash. Now, interestingly enough, in other classes that I've taught to grown-up people, they have had confusion with a dash, a slash, a forward slash, backslash, and an underscore. The concept of these being different has confused them. This is a dash, okay, and I will refer to it either as a dash, or I will tend to call it a tick, as in a tick mark, which is just, a short line. So that's just, I've been saying it for lots of years, and I try to say dash, but I just call it tick. So if I issue the command pwd tick capital L, I'll go into here, and I issue the command pwd tick L, and it tells me that it gives me the logical, if I was mounted on, if I had a, wait, let me just make sure that I'm saying the right thing, because I could be saying the wrong thing. Okay, so that tells me the logical path, meaning what the computer. Okay, let me do it backwards. If I do tick capital P, and I have another hard drive connected to my machine, but I have a shortcut or a link in my home directory, like I do have it set up on the laptop that I'm using, it will show me the actual name, the directory structure of the, starting from the first forward slash, it'll show me the actual path rather than what the alias or what the link is to it. So if I issue pwd, which you can't see on my machine, but pwd and then tick capital P, so the folder that I'm connected to, that has all of the TV episodes and movies that my kids are allowed to watch, it will show me the actual path rather than the logical path, or what the path is for human. The physical path is what the computer knows it as, and the logical path is what the computer tells its human it is. Okay. Any questions? Usually you just enter pwd, and that's it. It tells you where you are, and you move on. So it's to confirm that you are in the directory that you intend to be in before you execute any further commands. Most likely a remove command, which we will learn about. Okay, good. Okay, so goodness gracious, what is going on with this? Okay, whatever. This command is a lot more interesting. ls stands for list, or list the directory contents. This is probably the most common command that you're going to use as you are learning Linux in depth. You will get to a directory and you want to see what the contents are. So I go back and I am in my home directory in my virtual machine. I type in ls, and it shows me a whole bunch of stuff. So if in the Mac or in the PC, or even in the graphical environment, in a graphical file manager in Linux, if you double click on something, it will immediately show you the list. Linux says, well, that's making an assumption, and Linux doesn't need to make an assumption. It does what you tell it to do, no more, no less. So you want to go to a different directory, fine. Now we're in a different directory. I don't have to list it if I don't want to. So it doesn't. Now I issue the command explicitly ls, and ls now shows me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and you can see my screen still, right? Good. It shows me a bunch of blue things and 2 gray things. Excellent. The colors are actually important, and the colors indicate what they are visually. Now we'll get into much more in depth later on, but for now, desktop documents, downloads, music, pictures, public templates, and videos are all folders, directories. They're in blue. That is the way it works. The files, the myfile.txt and samplefile.txt, we will do more with that later on, but as I was preparing for class, I was doing some stuff. Those are plain text files. Now, interestingly enough, Linux doesn't care about the .txt. It can know inherently what the program, what the file is, and there's even a way for it to inherently know how to open the program based on the contents of the file. You don't have to explicitly tell it that it's a text file. It's just common. It's easy. It's more for the human to tell, so that I'm reminded that myfile.txt is a simple text file versus a Word doc or MP4, a video file, and so on and so forth. Okay, they're gray, which means that you can't run them. They're not executable. They're not able to. You can't run them as a script, as a series of commands. If I listed a series of commands in these files and then tried to run it as a script file, it wouldn't work because it's not executable. And we will get into file permissions way later and more in depth, and it will be confusing even then. Okay? Okay, so ls has a number of useful flags. Now, ls, tick L, shows me the long version of the directory listing. And so now what it shows is a bunch of you can't see my screen? Oh, sorry. Hold on a second. Oh, I can't. Oh, that's kind of not cool. Okay, now you can see my screen. Okay, good. Okay, so I was in a beta testing session. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually report a bug, because I would consider this a bug. When switching from screen sharing to presentation, screen sharing a specific application window to presentation, screen sharing is disabled. This feels like a bug, as I may need both active simultaneously. Okay. Yay. There's no screenshot. Tov. Okay, good. Bug report sent successfully. Please reload the page. I'm not reloading the page. Okay. You can see my screen. Now, so the first command I issued was ls, and we see a list, and it listed, it went out as far as the edge as it needed to, and fine. Now, ls long format, okay, so it lists okay, total, I believe, is the total number of bytes. I have to double check on that. I'm pretty sure that's true, but whatever. Okay, so this cluster of letters has significance to both the system and the user. When Linux was created, it was created as and for a multi-user system. Linux had its origins from the Unix operating system, which you read about in the intro, and we'll talk about Anki and the quiz at the end of class. And Unix was an operating system that was used by universities, which had hundreds of computer students who would all use the resources of the computer, and it was none of my business what was in another user's folder. So there is this level of personalized security that that Linux had as a matter of it being where it came from. That wasn't English, but you know what I mean. So Windows did not. Windows was meant for a single computer, single user, and what Windows had to do is, so Windows 3.11 and Windows 95, eventually around Windows NT, which is the networking version of it, allowed for multiple users, but it was implemented very badly. And to date, all of the problems that are viruses that exploit Windows machines are because of these flawed user permissions. Okay? I said it, I will defend it. Because Windows does not have this lowest common denominator type of permissions that is just basic, is reflective of Unix, of Linux. Okay, so anyway, let's take a look at what some of these mean. Okay, the first one, the letter D, means that it's a directory. So directory type permissions it identifies what the resource is. Okay, the first cluster, RWX, that is the owner's permissions, and it stands for read, write, and execute. I don't know why it's not an E, it's an X. We're just going to go along with it. So that means that the owner of the directory can read what the contents of the folder, write to the contents of the folder, and run any executables that are located in the folder. Okay. The second group is R, then a dash or tick X. And the third group is also R tick X. Okay. What that means is that anybody in the group, and you understand the basic idea of group permissions, is that you can give a number of users on the system identical permissions without having to do it for each and every person. So what we're seeing is, I am trying to remember what that column with the 2s and the 2 1s is, and I cannot for the life of me remember what it is. Okay, it doesn't matter. Okay, so the next one, so that's the first column, second column, forget about it. Third column is the name of the user. So in this case, the user name is Neon. And the next column is the group that they belong to. So I belong to... Should you be seeing something now? Do you not see my KDE screen, Ellis? Oh, okay. Okay. Ellis, are you seeing my screen? Okay. Okay, so this column is, the user column. This column is the group column. So every user has their own group named after themselves, but users can belong to other groups. This has something to do with byte size. I'm trying to remember whatever. Okay. Also, not strictly relevant, but if you're dying to know what it stands for, I'll be happy to tell you. Okay, so this is the timestamp of the last time that it was modified. So I booted up the system on March 14th, haven't made any changes to it. So March 14th at 12:14 and whatever happens to be the the time zone that I'm in, and then the name of the resource. In this case, it is desktop, and it is a directory, so it is colored blue. Okay, so that's LSL. Okay, this gives us much more than what we first saw. Now let's take a look at what we've got going on in here. So we have the same column of all right. Okay, for homework, figure out what the missing column is. No, just kidding. Okay, so the first column is the permissions column, and then the second column, not recalling what it is. Now we see there's another user, and that user is root. Root is the absolute user, is the super user, ls-al. So we're combining two different flags. We're combining the L flag, which is the long format, and the A flag, which is to show us everything. I actually think, yeah. So LSA by itself, no problem. So ls-a by itself shows us the list, but it doesn't give us the long format. So LSL is the long format and shows A in everything or all, including all these files that now showed up and they have a dot in front of them. Okay. So anyway, so now we see a new user. Now root, the user root and the group root owns this 2 dot thing, and it looks like it's a directory. Okay. I will explain to you what these are. We will use them in ways, and it will become much clearer as we actually need to use them. Okay, 2 dots means the directory one up from where I am right now. The single dot means this directory. Now, why the first one even exists, I don't even know. I'm not gonna lie. I have no idea, and it just is. So we'll learn another command. I mean, I know how to use it and why to use it, but I don't know why it exists. But anyway, so let's put these two things together. We issue PWD and home and neon. Now the 2 dots implies that home is the directory in the hierarchy above it, and that home directory is owned by the root user or the super user of the entire system, which makes sense because in a home directory you could, if you guys were working off of a single machine, you could theoretically create a user for your brother, and I'm speaking to each of you, so, or you could each create a user for the other brother. And Noah, when you're listening, if you have siblings, you can do this with them also, I suppose, that you can create another user. So you would have home/Alice and home/Cyrus, or if we were using one single machine, you could have home/Noah, home/Mark, my name. And each of us would have our own user space that allows us to create files, create programs, download stuff, images, funny things, whatever. But what's in Cyrus's folder is none of the business of Ellis, insofar as your computer's permissions are concerned. Yes, you're brothers and you love each other very much. I'm very glad to hear that. But as far as the computer is concerned, unless you have specific permission, remember, all permissions in Linux are limiting. Unless you have specific permission to see what's in the others directory, it does not allow you. It will actually issue you a permission denied. It'll issue a permission denied error. Okay. So now we see that while me as the user of this Neon Live install, owns all of the files and all the directories that are in the my directory. The home directory is owned by the super user of the system. Now, how come let me start that again. Not asking a question. The reason why we did not see all of these files when we issued the list command before is because they start with a dot. In Linux, any file that starts with a dot is hidden. It doesn't show ordinarily. You can force it to show. A tick A will force it to show. So the LSAL versus LSL. So we have, many so we have a big difference between showing all the files and showing just the files that are visible by default. And some of these files are important. We'll take a look at them. The bash rc, that is the that's where you can put bash commands. That's actually where we might be, if we wanted to edit what the prompt has in it. You can make different edits to it. That will either be found in bash rc or it'll be found in profile. Okay. X authority and X session errors, that tells us that's a log of X session errors is a log of problems that the windowing program that allows us to see all the different windows in our virtual machine, what problems it encountered. Bash history is actually a list of, and we will look at the history commands, a list of the commands that have been issued. Okay, this is a file that exists when you start up your system. This is a what's the word I'm looking for? Having this file in your root directory, the reason why it's hidden is because you shouldn't mess with it, because if the windowing system, in our case X Windows, if something, again, it's all permission based, so you have the permission, it has in it information that allows the system to know that you're using the windowing system. Okay, cache is obviously, it's a cache for your system. Config is a directory or folder that holds other configuration files. Dbus is a mechanism for communicating from one system, from one program to another. That's the main handoff. Okay, I don't have to go really into all of it. Okay. New PG, that's for security, for encryption. Local KDE is specific to the KDE library, any KDE programs. Mozilla would be for Firefox, since that's the parent company. Okay, so anyway, so ordinarily, you as a human do not interact with these files. If you do, basically you're doing it, at your own risk. So if we want to, let's take a look in them without actually messing stuff up. So we haven't gotten to that yet, so the answer is not yet. Okay, so another command that you can issue, which is another flag that you can use when issuing the LT command, is T. And what that does is, you see, it sorts it now, not alphabetically, which is default, but it sorts .config all the way down to .profile. And if you'll notice, it is in time order. It's in timestamp order from the most recent to the least recent. Very simple. Okay, so I have to shut that off. Okay, so we looked at the A tag, which shows everything including hidden files. We showed the L tag, which we use the L switch which is the long format, T, which is time. So the last one I want to show, which is one that, because the command prompt is always at the bottom, sometimes you want to see what the latest thing is, but you want it to be a little bit more obvious. So I use the R flag to reverse it, and that's exactly what it does. The most recent item in the directory is right at the bottom. So I don't have to, if I have a really long directory, this is fairly short. It's only got half dozen things, 2 dozen things in it. So it's fairly short. But if you have a long directory with a lot of different files in it, a lot of different pictures, and so on and so forth, you want to see the last picture that was added to the, in the photos directory and pictures directory. You would do a sort by reverse time, ls tick altr. Or LATR or RLTA, it doesn't matter, the order of it doesn't matter, and it'll sort it long format, everything, and by time, and reversed, so that the latest thing is on the bottom. Okay, I'm going to flip back to presentation and make sure that ALTR, and the last one is you can add an H to it. And so instead of showing you the number of bytes, which are really long and kind of useless, you can, if you know that a file is downloading and it's 40 megabytes, you can ls tick H or ls tick AH, and it'll show, or LH, and it'll show you how, instead of the exact number of bytes that it takes up on the disk, it'll show you in human readable format 20 meg, 21 meg, 22 meg, 25 meg, 30. Okay, so that's the last one. Okay, and I have no idea what's going on with this mess. So it should show everything small, but it's not. Okay, like that. Okay, so now we've seen how to show us which directory we're in, and show us how to show us in a number of different ways how to show us the listings. So the next thing we want to do is we want to go into a directory, because otherwise, there's nothing here, so it's no fun. Unfortunately, we don't have any files anywhere. Except for what we're going to do is look in config, but ordinarily you're looking at downloads folder. Like if your browser by default will download to your downloads folder in your, just like normal, right? Like normal, not like Mac or Windows, like normal. Okay, so what we do is we issue a command cd, and now things get important because capitalization is important. So if I want to CD stands for change directory to downloads. And we know that downloads exists in this directory. I'm pointing to the screen so if you can see my fingers. You know that we see downloads as a folder. Now we're going to change directory into the downloads folder. And now a number of things have happened. We've changed directories. How do we know? Because our prompt is now telling us what directory we're actually in. So the tilde, the squiggly mark, tells us that we're from the home directory. We're in a subdirectory called downloads. And now what we want to do is we want to issue a command ls. And lo and behold, there's nothing there. Why? Because I haven't downloaded anything. That's kind of obvious. Okay? So cd changes the directory. It takes the parameter, takes the argument of the directory that you want to go into, and that directory can either be relative to where you are in the directory structure now, or it can be absolute for the entire file system, which we will look at later on. Okay, so in the downloads directory there is nothing. So now what I'm going to do is, remember I told you about the 2 dots, so I'm going to go one up in the hierarchy. Let me show you how this works. Okay, so now if I print the working directory, I'm in the home directory, in the neon subdirectory, and in the downloads subdirectory to that. So now if I want to go one up, I'd cd ... which means go up one directory level. It doesn't make a big deal about it, but then I hit PWD, and it shows me that I have actually navigated up out of the downloads folder. I'm saying this in a very longhand way, just so you know that I am being absolutely and abundantly clear about what's happening. Okay? So, a little bit quicker now. We're going to change directory to the hidden folder called config. Okay? And now we're in you can go into a hidden file, you just have to identify it. So now we're in the config folder, in the hidden config folder, in the config folder, or .config folder. And if I list that, now we have a whole lot of fun stuff. Okay? We have ARC. I looked up what RC stood for, and RC is something configuration. I don't remember what the R stands for. You know what? As soon as I go to sleep at night, I'll remember what it stands for. Or make it your homework. Look up what RC stands for Linux configuration files. Okay, just kidding. Okay, so RC folder. Okay. Okay, so ARK, that expands compressed files. Blue Devil is for Bluetooth. Discover is, we looked at Discover. Those are what is in each of these files are the configuration that the program itself understands. Not all of them are going to be the same. The program understands. If we look in each of them, they'll say specifically what the configuration is. So Discover is for installing new software. Dolphin is file manager. GTK is the GNOME windowing libraries, how GNOME draws stuff. K-Activity Manager. Kate is a basic text editor. See Console, which is our console. Plasma, which is the meta program that runs your entire desktop. Okay, MPV for running MPV. KDE Connect is actually fun. You can, I don't know if you have cell phones or not, but you can download a program, definitely on Android, called KDE Connect, and you can actually connect to your computer and you can use it as a mouse. And my son gets a kick out of it. He's like, I can play games and use my phone as a, okay, whatever. Anyway, okay, so now this is all of a sudden getting a little bit more interesting, is that we have these files, and just for the fun of it, we're going to look at what's in Dolphin RC. Okay, so it says that in the general section, it says version 200. Okay, I mean, that's meaningful somewhere. View props timestamp. I got no idea. I don't know these programs. I'm not the program developer. And then the window is 68 by 500. The menu bar is disabled. The state is some gibberish that it has meaning, and I don't know what it is. Whether or not the tube bar is movable, disabled, enabled, I guess is the other one. And width. Okay, so there's height and there's width. You know what? I don't care, because this file, it's a hidden file. When Dolphin is double-clicked, when the file manager is opened, it reads in these settings and it means something. But I know that I'm going to open up the window pretty much the way I left it. That's, you know, when it gets down to it, this just makes sure that it's keeping whatever settings I've created, it's keeping track of them. And that is a strength of Linux, is that a lot of the settings, a lot of preferences are set like this. They're in more or less some sort of English, and if it was important to me to change something, change the width, change the height, as long as I was doing it correctly and didn't break anything, it would, I'd be able to edit the file here and then see the edits, somewhere else. change the background to blue, change the volume to 88% or 22% or 4%, whatever. So that starts to introduce the importance of Linux as a file system, as an operating system that, for all intents and purposes, everything is a file. And writing to the file, reading from the file is very quick. And that's how Linux starts to get strong. So CD allows us to change directories. If you issue the CD command by itself, what it does is it returns you home. That's kind of cool. CD with just the dash returns you to the directory that you were just in. So if you do an oopsie, if you make a mistake and you get out, you find yourself in some other directory, you want to get back to the directory that you're in, CD space tick or minus or dash will return you to the directory that you're immediately in. So CD sends you to your home directory, CD dash sends you to the directory that you're previously in. Okay. And back to presentations. Okay, well, sometimes we need to create a directory, and I want you to do this along with me. When we issue the command, location, okay, so I'm going to issue a command called clear, which just wipes out, just resets the screen to blank. Okay, where am I? I'm in my home directory. I knew that. What do I have in here? I have all my stuff. Okay, so what I can do is I can create a directory by issuing the command mk for make dir, which is a directory, and I'm just going to call it projects. Okay, it's certainly happy because it gave me no errors. Now when I do ls, now you see the list is longer by 1, and that projects now falls between pictures and public because alphabet. That's it. So I tend to be very organized when I start with my files. So create folders and subfolders so that so you can keep yourself organized. Also, projects and so on and so forth. I have one I have for clients also. So okay, that's a fairly straightforward command. Now, if you wanted to create a series, like if you wanted to create a deep nested list of folders, what you could do is mkdir and then set the flag P, which means follow the parents, and then what we're going to do is, actually no, we should do videos, school, graduation, morning. Okay? And what a surprise, it tells you that everything went well by telling you nothing. Now, if we go into videos, okay, we see school. And if we go into school, we see graduation. And if we go into graduation, oh, that's right, you guessed it, we see morning. And if we go into morning, we see absolutely nothing because there is nothing in there. Now, what did I do? I just typed something that I didn't teach you. LL is a shortcut that is so reflexive that I didn't even realize I was doing it. It's a shortcut for LSAL. Okay? Gives me the It's almost the exact same. Not quite sure whatever, it doesn't matter. So LL is a shortcut command. So instead of typing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 characters, I only have to type 2. If you're going to be a Linux user, and I desperately hope with all my heart that you become Linux users, you have to be lazy. You have to be willing to do things with the minimum amount of effort to get the maximum amount of reward, because that is what Linux is all about, being lazy. You get work done without having to do a lot of extraneous stuff. Okay, so just to go back, we issued a command make directory, and we said tick P, which is create all the directories necessary so that I can have this complete path. And that's what we did. So we created in the videos directory, we created school, graduation, and morning, and we buried ourselves in videos, school, graduation, morning, and we're there. Type CD, and we're right back to our home directory. Okay? All right. And this is just going to get old. All right. Go back to presentations. All right. So that's make directory. Okay. NV stands for move, but what we also use it for is to rename files. So moving it from one file name to another file name. This is where it starts to become not so intuitive, but it really doesn't get much worse than that. So. Hi. Sorry about that. I have absolutely no idea what happened. But it crashed, so I killed it and I'm back. Okay. Where was I? MV. Move. Okay. Alrighty. Let's just see where we're up to. Okay. Screen sharing. Okay, so you can see my screen. Okay, so I have a file. Okay, I have in my. Okay, where was I? Oh, okay. So I have these two files: myfile.txt and samplefile.txt. Okay, NV will allow me to. Let's take sample file. MV sample file. Oh, all right. Before I got cut off, I was saying that Linux users are lazy. Let me teach you how to be lazy. Yeah, that's the first time your teachers told you that, I'm sure. Okay, so let's say you start typing and it's a really long file name and you don't really feel like completing it. That's fine. Hit tab. Start typing a little bit until you kind of get it down to where it's unique, and then hit tab. So MV space SAMPL tab will auto-complete the name of the file that matches that description. Now, if you have that, let me see. Okay. Okay, touch means to just create a blank file. Okay, we'll learn about it. I promise. We're going to get to everything. Everything that you see me do, I'm going to explain at some point or another. I promise. Okay, so I have these two files now, sample file and sample file1.txt, not uncommon, especially with programming, stuff like that. Now, if I want to rename, okay, it will say, oh wait, well, I have a couple of files, so they match up until this point, and then I need your input. Do you want the number 1 or do you want a period? In our case, we want the period, so this is what I mean, and then complete the file because we're still lazy. Okay, so we're going to change sample file.txt to my sample file.txt. Okay, gives us no error, which means we did it right. And now what we have different is, well, we still have my file. Now we have my sample file, so sample file and sample file 1. So now if I do mv my, so it will say, now it doesn't do anything because, okay, wait. So either I can type in F or I can type in S, or I have a lot of different files. So I hit tab 2 times and it says, oh wait, which do you want? These are your options, my file and my file, sample file. Okay, so I want my sample file, so I type in SA and hit tab, and finishes me off for, finishes off the rest of the name of my file. Okay, so we used it to rename it, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my sample file.txt to documents. Again, capital D because capitalization is important. OC because I know downloads is there also, so again, my brain already does it. But DOC tab fills in autocompletes documents, and you see the slash at the end means into the directory. I hit enter and I get no errors. So now when I do, and I'm going to show you, I'll show you this way. When I ls documents, that's right, you can issue a directory listing if you specify the name of the folder as your parameter. It lists my sample file.txt. LSALT documents will do the same thing. It will show you, but in the long format. Am I clear? Okay. Excellent. Okay, so mv, the command mv, allows us to either rename a document, move it from one file name to another file name, or it allows us to take the file and put it within a folder in a directory structure. So, multi-purpose. I know what your next question is, and the answer is CP. Stands for copy. Ta-da! See? I made this all by myself. Okay. So I know what order it comes in. Alrighty. So now we go to copy. We're going to copy files. So we just moved a file, renamed a file, and we're going to go back to screen sharing. Let's hope it doesn't crash out on me again. Okay. And okay. So where are we? We are in our home directory. What is in our home directory? All this stuff is in our home directory. Now you see my file. Okay. What we did for documents, we moved my sample file to documents. Now what we're going to do is we're going to copy my file into documents. And now if I list it, my file hasn't moved, but there is a exact copy. I mean, it's an exact copy of the blank file, but you know what I mean. It's an exact copy of my file.txt now exists in two places, in the home directory and now another one in the documents directory. Okay? You can also copy sample file 1 to download / sample file A. So you can now copy it and rename it simultaneously. How awesome is that? Okay? And in downloads, sample file A exists, as well as sample file 1 in our root directory, in the root directory, or in our home directory, home directory. I know, it is cool. And they say Linux is for nerds. I don't know what they're talking about. Okay. Let's roll the dice again. Okay. See, I told you I was going to get to it. So we saw briefly the hidden file bash history. If you've been playing along, and not just watching me, but doing it on your own, well, let me ask you, have you been doing this in your own terminals on your virtual machines, or have you just been watching me the whole time? Awesome. So this is going to be more fun than that. All right. Yeah, I know what you meant. Okay. So we're sharing my screen. We're going to go back into yada, yada, yada. Okay. And so now we've had these very short commands. Let's see. We've done pwd, ls, ls will tick, mv. See, MV tells me an error. Missing file operand. Well, it wants to know what you want to move. So I didn't give it anything. It didn't know what to do. It told me how I'm a failure as a user, and it stopped doing and gave me back a prompt. Okay, we did that. Make directory also. So now what I want to do is I want to type this huge long command called history. I know, it's 7 letters. There's nothing I can do about that. Wow, check this all out. This is literally everything that I've typed in order. And now you start to recognize some of the things that I've typed in. You recognize them, you've been playing along. And they have numbers. Well, this is awesome. This is beyond awesome. This means that you can, if you had to create this long, complex command, and we will get to that, and then you need to issue it again, and actually this happens when my son wants to connect to, if he wants to watch a movie that we have on the network. So instead of having to reissue the command to connect to that computer on the network, I actually just go and look in the history and I find the command, and then I actually use this kind of regularly because he watches too much TV. Anyway, so it shows me a list of all the commands and it enumerates them. This is good because I can simply issue the command. I can say just redo the command. Okay? And take a look at how we do that. Okay. So, the history command, we can, first of all, there are some subcommands. We can issue a save command, but Bash is already saving it automatically. So we can issue a command, and again, for me calling things funny things, I call the exclamation point a bang, because that's what it's called in programming. In Bash scripting and other things, it's called a bang. So if I issue a bang and a number, it will re-execute the item in the history of that number. So number from 1 to n, n being the latest command that you issued in your shell. So in my, you should be seeing my screen again. If you're seeing my screen again, what I'm going to do is no. Okay. I'm going to reissue command 134. I don't know. So exclamation point bang 134. It tells you which command it is re-executing. So ls downloads. And sample file A is the one singular file that is located in my downloads folder. So it doesn't this is a very simplistic way of doing things. Obviously, when you have more complex commands or multiple commands on a line, this becomes a little bit more useful. So instead of having to redo something, or you do something and it didn't work, so you fix it and then you redo the command, so you don't have to keep typing it. So you can actually, it's a little bit more complex. You can actually open up a shell within a shell. It's a little bit more confusing to understand it that way. Right now we're just using one shell, but you can actually, okay. If you want to reissue the last command that was issued, and sometimes this, if you generate a random number, okay? How do I generate a random number? Okay, whatever. Let's say you have a script that generates a random number. I'm not going to deal with that right now. And you just want to get like 7 random numbers, or it generates a character name for a game, and it does it by using some sort of randomization. You want to get it, so you would okay. Let's just do random thing. Okay, so echo means just to write this out, display this, and then do nothing else. It's a more useful command in programming, but for demonstration purposes, okay. So echo random thing, it echoes random thing. If I wanted to do it again, I issue 2 bangs or 2 exclamation points, and it shows me what it's doing, and it hit random thing. Okay, kind of easy. So if I'm watching a movie and then I have to shut down the movie, I will, I'll and that's the last command that I come back to it. I hit the double exclamation point, bang bang, and it opens up the movie, and I can continue watching it, or I can start over, what have you. Okay, now, last thing I'm going to show you about history is the up arrow. If you use the up arrow, and I'm kind of guessing that you've already figured this out on your own because this is also fairly common, if you use the up arrow, it will cycle backwards through your history until you get to the command that you were looking for. Hit enter, and it will execute that command. So the up arrow and down arrow will allow you to cycle through. It will go from the latest or the last entry in your history to the first entry in your history, and if you are, and then up and down depending on the up and down arrows. Okay, good. Okay, for homework. Copy any file from your home directory to the temp directory. Pay attention to the slashes. I have not discussed the temp directory. This is discovered on your own. And discover if you have a var www HTML directory. Yes or no. And lsal, the contents of that directory. There might be nothing there. We will talk about what that directory is and what it does next session. We have 10 more minutes. Ask away. I've either put you to sleep or... Oh, there we go. Okay. I think you can use your microphones also. You don't technically have to type everything. Just saying. Okay. No, you can't do your homework right now. That's not... Okay. So don't do homework right this very second. That's not fun. What's going on here? Why is this not... That's interesting. Okay. Okay. Why am I not connected to anything? That's weird. Okay, I don't care. Alrighty. Next week we're going to do more of these commands. And I desperately... Okay, so I wanted to look up the Anki thing. Do you have smartphones? No. Okay. Okay, so it seems that the newer version is incompatible with the KDE version of the Neon that we're using, which is annoying to say the least. What I'm going to do is sometime this week, probably in the next couple hours, I'm going to figure out how to get Anki working on your in your virtual machines, or we're going to simply install it. No, that's wrong. Install it on your Mac. And we'll just deal with it for, okay. So your homework is install Anki on your Macintosh computers for the time being. I will get it. I'll get it working in our Linux virtual machines, so that we can do everything in Linux. But I do want you studying for it because I do want you to do the quiz. Sometime this week I will hopefully send out an email, and now I'm lost. I will send out an email, and that's not right. That's not right either. That's right. Okay. Get it working, right? Get it working in a virtual machine, so we have a pure Linux experience. It might require actually building the program from scratch, which is not exactly covered by this course, but it's kind of following simple instructions, which everybody can do. Okay. All right. What is a temp? Temp directory is where your Linux machine stores files that, when you reboot, will get wiped out or should get wiped out. It's a directory that has an interesting set of permissions that everybody's kind of allowed to write to it, but you can't really run programs from it unless it's like complicated. But it does exist, and I will hopefully, I hope by the end of next class, we'll take you through the file system. If not, I might have you watch a YouTube video. You're cool with that? Okay. Okay. If you don't have any questions, class is over, and we'll see you next week, same time. You're very welcome. Take care. I look forward to reading your homework. My pleasure. Bye.